The Schrodinger's Catbox.
Hello, this is Dan Nobles, and welcome to the Schrodinger's Catbox. I probably shouldn't even make this video, especially on the Schrodinger Catbox, because the Schrodinger Catbox is more or less about possible theories and debates and things like that. I guess if one thing is really heavily debated, it's the moon landings. But all we need is another debate forum on the internet about whether the moon landings are real or not. So I really had to make another one, but I feel so strongly about this, and it just burns me up every time I run across one of these things on YouTube, one of these moon hoax videos where they're arguing back and forth. And surprisingly, I mean, it seems like most of the people are saying it is a hoax, and maybe the majority of the people that know that it's not a hoax just don't visit the forums. And I shouldn't let myself, get riled up about it. But when I read it, it just makes me really angry. Um, there's nothing that I can say or anybody can say to convince a moon hoaxer, um, or otherwise known as conspiracy theorist. Once the conspiracy theorist has the conspiracy rooted in their system, there's nothing that you can say to dissuade them. Um, for example, this guy that has gone around and harassed and stalked the original astronauts, asking them to put their hand on the Bible in order to swear an oath that they walked on the moon or went to the moon. He's a prime example. The reason is, say for example, when he talked to, I think it was astronaut Alan Bean, he, after he did his spiel where it sounded like he was actually doing a normal reporting of journalism, then he broke out, you must swear on the Bible that you went to the moon, whatever. So Alan Bean took him up on his offer. He put his hand on the Bible and he swore. And then this guy, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right now. He's an idiot. But he, um, he said, repeat after me. And he said, under penalty of whatever, whatever. And he said treason. And Alan Bean says, treason has nothing to do with this. And so he swore to everything else. And then this guy's like, well, yeah, but you didn't say under penalty of treason. It's no matter what they do, you know, even if they got in a rocket and flew the guy up there, it's like it would always be something else. Oh, you've created this virtual environment and this isn't real. There's nothing that you can do to convince a conspiracy theorist. So it's really a big waste of time to try to do that. But like I said, I just get so angry about it that I have to make some comments sometimes, and you know, I, I I guess I let myself be dragged into those conversations, and I shouldn't. But anyway, um, my main argument to those people usually goes something like this. If you have what was it, 12 people that walked on the moon, um, just let's say just the core astronauts that were involved in the Apollo space mission. Let's forget about the Mercury space uh, efforts that preempted that and allowed that to happen. If you just talk about the core astronauts that were involved in Apollo, and let's say, well, how do you keep those guys quiet? They are highly trained pilots, doctors, um, ex-military people, high integrity, um, very high values, really stand-up guys. They were chosen for that reason. They weren't chosen for their acting ability or their ability to lie to the public or the ability to exactly explain what happened on each mission, like they actually like it actually happened. So if you take these people, what does the government have to do in order to keep them quiet? Do they give a this big huge bonus money program? Did they tell them that if you don't keep quiet about it, we will kill you? Did they give them a patriotic speech saying we need to do this in order to keep everybody, uh, the American people in good spirits? What can you do to that many people to keep them quiet, even on their deathbed, to keep them quiet and not say one word about the supposed hoax? There's nothing you can do to that many people. You might get one, you might get two. You might even, in a bizarre world, get three people that you can keep quiet like that. But eventually, if there's some big conspiracy, somebody's going to crack when you have that big of a crowd. Now, that's just the astronauts. Let's talk about moving out from the astronauts, the support team, all the scientists, all the people, all the engineers, all the maintenance guys, down to the shop floor, everybody that was involved in that effort. Thousands and thousands of people, not just within NASA, but external vendors, consultants. The list goes on and on and on. How do you keep all those people quiet? Well, the moon hoaxer argument to that is, well, they were only involved with a certain part of the mission, and therefore, they don't know. And I'll concede that in many cases that's true. If you have an external vendor that's just manufacturing pieces of something, they're not going to know that there's some big conspiracy cover up. They may know that something is being manufactured wrong, but let's get a little bit closer. Let's talk about mission control. All of those guys that are running those computers and monitoring the situation and everything like that. You got to keep all those guys quiet too. It's amazing how many people had to be tight-lipped and keep their mouths shut about such a conspiracy. The conspiracy itself is so huge that it's the possibility of keeping it under wraps is just impossible. The other argument that I usually make is, if these are all faked moon landings and the footage is all faked, where did we get the technology to create that film? Because whenever, and a lot of you guys are not old enough to maybe know this, but in the 1960s, when you watch, and you can go back and watch these movies. Okay, if we talk about 1969, where were we at? We were at the special effects level of what? 2001: A Space Odyssey and Silent Running, those kind of movies, which with Doug Trumbull and those guys, Stanley Kubrick directing, 2001, they were doing a great job. And if you go back and look at those films, they're really, really nice. To me, I mean, I really admire those movies. But unfortunately, what happens with special effects in movies over time, as special effects gets better and better, you can easily look back on movies and look at it and go, oh my God, that was so bad. Because we reference it to what we currently have, what we currently look at. But when you look at the moon landings, you're not hit by that, oh my God, it's completely fake, the fake footage. When you see the astronaut, jumping through the moon, they didn't have green screens back then. They didn't have the sophisticated wires that you would wrap somebody in to make them do flips and things that all, Sandra Bullock did on Gravity and all that good stuff. Didn't exist. None of that stuff existed. So that's, another point that I make is, you don't look back and see the absolute, complete, without a doubt, lack of quality in the footage, like you do if you watch something like the films of the time, and it seemed like, now, I don't know, it seems like everything you look at, it looks fairly real anyway, but all the way through the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, every film that you saw, if you go back maybe 5 years and looked at the special effects 5 years before that movie, then you would, say, okay, this is kind of hokey. Um, that doesn't happen with the moon landing footage. Of course, the hoaxers will say, oh, yes, it does. As soon as I look at it, it all looks fake. Oh, my God, it's so fake. Well, like Alan Bean said, it's okay that you believe that. And usually the next thing that I point out to the hoaxers is, when you think of our current space program and what we've accomplished, and if you actually attended a shuttle launch like I have, the technology that goes into doing something like that, the know-how, doesn't come by saying, you know what, country, let's create a space program, or let's create a shuttle program. We didn't really go to the moon, so we don't have all that know-how, but let's create a shuttle program. And let's launch these shuttles that are obviously fake, and let's, let them orbit the Earth. Let's do EVAs, and let's let's I know, let's reuse them. Let's jettison the solid rocket boosters and the main fuel tank, and let's just reuse the actual craft. Let's let it land like a glider. That would be amazing. Where did that know-how come from? If we didn't do the things that we did in the 60s, if we didn't go to the moon, that technology does not exist. I know the moon hoaxer says, well, we really did launch rockets, but we just, we went to the moon. We actually went to the moon. We orbited the moon, but we didn't land on the moon. We just couldn't do that part. Uh, there's no arguing with them. The next argument I have that I usually throw out there is, what about the high definition images that Japan did with their lunar probe that showed the blast points of the Apollo, the lunar modules taken off from the surface of the moon? I never, ever get a response from that. It's all like just brushed over. It's like, oh my God, maybe he's right. There's no response. And if there is, I mean, there's, like I said, a conspiracy theorist, moon hoaxer, you cannot convince them. They live in their own world. Any bizarre conspiracy theorist, and I'm going to admit right now that I have had a few myself. There's things that, and maybe I do have things that I believe that are just ludicrous, and I won't let go of them. So I understand where they're coming from. But when it comes to the space program and landing on the moon and what we achieved, it just burns me up that they spit on American astronauts and all the scientists and all the people that were involved in that effort. And I can't help it. It's just, there is tons of material out there that if you read up on it, forget about the personal experiences of the astronauts, forget about the eyewitness reports, and forget about all that. Look at the scientific data. Go through that data. And even after all of the reading, all of the studying, all of the understanding, I tend to believe that a conspiracy theorist still will not be convinced, which is sad. But anyway, so I didn't mean really, well, yes, I did mean to rant on, because it's something I feel very strongly about. But I don't really want to turn the comment section into a battleground between hoaxers and, the people that know the facts. But it probably will become one. But anyway, um, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching.